presented by Horns and Hooves Entertainment. You are watching Buffalo After Dark.
Good evening, everybody. This is Bob Hansen over here at Buffalo After Dark. I am your host for the evening, and I am here tonight at the moment with Andy Van Meer. Andy, how are you doing, boss?
All right.
I'm glad. So there's been a lot of news going around this weekend, and I figure it's only appropriate since we're about a week away from the NFL draft. And if you haven't heard, we're going to be doing a live draft reaction show on Thursday, the 28th. And at the same time, we will be doing a hybrid collaboration, as I am actually hosting a mini party at my place and then having the show being recorded at the same time. So that's going to be fun. I can't wait to do that. And it's going to be a very interesting draft this year. And why don't we kick off the news that's been going around lately? And supposedly there was the first big rumor before today is supposedly over the week, I believe it took place on either Sunday or Monday, that there was a rumor going around that Kyler Murray would not get a contract with the Arizona Cardinals, or I shouldn't say that. He's refusing to play for the Arizona Cardinals unless he gets a contract. And that people now take that idea and they just fed it into their heads, and they now say, okay, then he's probably going to get traded at this point. And there were a handful of teams that could be interested. You know, the Giants, I've heard, was the front runner apparently to get Kyler Murray, but we'll see what happens come draft day. So Andy, what are your thoughts about all that?
Well, for Kyler Murray, it's been an ongoing ordeal with him since the very end of the season. I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, is it management that's doing this? Is it really him? I mean, they're going to need a quarterback. He's an uprising quarterback. I don't know what the issue is. These players are just getting into it where they got to get the bag for the money, and it's getting crazy out there. I don't know.
I don't either, but apparently what I've read is that Murray wants a demanding price of around $40 million. Now, the problem I have with here is this. A, his size. I think he's like 5'8" or 5'10" or something like that. He's very short for his height to be an NFL starting quarterback. And B, he wants to be paid like big boy bucks, like the Josh Allens or the Patrick Mahomes type money. I mean, $40 million for at least 5 seasons is ridiculous on his end. But I mean, for me, I feel like he didn't do enough to perform in the playoffs this past year against the Rams to prove his worth. And people say, yeah, Kyler's a good quarterback, but he's not worth the money of Allen and Mahomes and Rodgers and all those guys. I mean, I don't even think it's worth it, if we're being completely honest here.
Oh, he's not. He's not there yet. He's got some proving to do along the way. One little playoff spot, one and done isn't going to get you, the contract you think you're going to get with guys like Allen and Mahomes and Rodgers. That's just not how it goes. You should be happy you should get somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 and take it and go.
I think that's what he should get, but I think he's being a bit too greedy. I don't know if it's him that's holding them out or it's the Cardinals, because anytime you hear a player having a holdout with any team, and there's actually one going on right now, which we'll talk about later. And but Kyler Murray, though, I mean, he's a good quarterback, but he's not elite, and he wants to be paid like an elite quarterback. And like you said, he should get around $25 million per year. But the thing is, I don't think he wants to get that money. I think he wants more than what he's worth.
Yeah, and that's just it. And like I was watching the press conferences today with Josh Allen and Brandon Beane, and Brandon Beane is such an intelligent guy. I mean, he was breaking it all down with drafts and players and where they think they are, where their agents think they are, and where the team thinks they are. It's amazing. I mean, for all I know, this could be fed by an agent. They could be in his ear whispering, hey, you're elite enough to get this money. Demand this much, and we're going to go to the table and demand this much. And it's getting really out of hand with some of these contracts too.
I agree with you 100%.
Look at the contract that Deshaun Watson got from Cleveland.
Yeah,
he hasn't even thrown a ball in a year.
Yeah, and Denzel Ward too. I mean, he just got $100.5 million by the Cleveland Browns for what, 4 or 5 years at max. So if you think, like, just as an example, if you take the contract that Deshaun Watson got this spring and what Denzel Ward just got this past week, the Cleveland Browns alone have already spent over $300 million on two players for over $300 million. That's a lot of fucking money.
Right. And Kyler Murray is going to be having the mindset and attitude of, hey, why not me?
Basically, I mean, I feel like a lot of players, and I feel like this is a bad thing and a good thing at the same time. And that is, I feel like on the bad end of the spectrum, I feel like that a lot of players are becoming more and more entitled, especially the ones that are more about themselves than they are about the team. Just as an example, we already talked about this earlier this year on the show, and that was with Tyreek Hill. And he took money over the team. Instead of taking a pay cut to stay with the Chiefs, he ends up asking for a trade, and then he gets the money he wants from the Miami Dolphins. And that creates parity in the NFL. And there's been a lot of rumors about a lot of these players that are in holdouts, like Kyler Murray, for example. These are the kind of guys that you don't want to lose, but at the same time, you're taking a serious risk, because sometimes what happens is once these players get paid, they don't put up the same production as they were expected to. It happened to Marcel Darius when he was manipulating the media by saying, oh, it was going to be my last year with the Bills at that time. And then like 2 days later, they paid him over $100 million and did absolutely nothing. And then Brandon Beane comes in and he ends up trading his contract and hasn't had a job since then.
Yeah. I mean, as the cap gets higher year after year. It's become a trend now, especially for wide receivers. They all, like you said, Tyreek chose the money over staying with the Chiefs and Mahomes, which is, it's a bit crazy. But, these guys are going to go out there, get the highest that they think they're worth. And, you see the triple down effect. You see, Adams getting high money. You see Stephon Diggs getting that kind of money, but they were going to discuss his extension anyways. But I don't know, before this whole fiasco with money became an ordeal, how much he was actually probably going to get. So now with Tyreek setting the bar for wide receivers, and you got to be in that tier of receivers,
and
it's become a trend, and it's kind of like well, forget the team. Where's my money? Pay me or I'm out.
Basically. And that's why I was glad that the Bills paid Stephon Diggs the money that he deserves, because he's earned it. He's been a huge impact for the Bills offense. But like, the thing I have an issue with is that the NFL themselves, not the league, but the players themselves, with the cap going up every year, it almost feels like it's becoming a more of like greed as an aspect to like everything you see in today's society. And, with inflation and all this economic bullshit, and yet all these players are demanding tens of millions of dollars a year just to catch a football. And I think it's pretty, unhealthy for them to be embracing all this money and then just go out and spending like on Maseratis or Lamborghinis and mansions in all of like LA and Florida. And half of the time they don't commit to the team. They're more just interested in it for themselves. And as their old saying goes, is that money is the root of all evil. And Tyreek, to me, committed one of the 7 deadly sins, which is greed. And he basically got greedy. And he basically said, I'm going to take the money and run away with it, go to a shitty team like the Dolphins, and I'm not going to contribute to shit, because, you're going from Patrick Mahomes of all people to Tua Tagovailoa, who's on a year, make it or break it year for him. Because this is it for Tua. Because if he doesn't produce with Tyreek, he's done. And the Dolphins are going to probably have to blow it up in that position, at least, just to please Tyreek, because they're not going to trade for Mahomes, because that's probably the only excuse to why Tyreek got so popular to begin with, was because he was playing with Patrick Mahomes. And now he has this entitlement of, oh, I should be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. And yet, sure enough, he got $72 million guaranteed by the Miami Dolphins. It's not about the length of the contract. It's the guaranteed money. That's always going to be a factor in these players.
Yeah, it is. It's hopefully it doesn't get too out of control. I mean, as this off season's gone on, you see where guys are setting the bar at, and where everybody wants to get in the tier of guaranteed money. So hopefully the NFL doesn't let it get out of hand, and everyone at every position is going to be asking for high value money, and it's like you're going to get what's within your range.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I was glad, though, the Bills were able to give Stephon Diggs a pay cut to stay with the team. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of restructured contracts. I mean, look at the Saints. They used to throw money around to players like candy. And over time, since the salary cap was getting to them, and they had the worst cap situation of any team in the league, they had to pretty much restructure all their big name players, except for like Teron Armstead and a few handful of players. People like Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. I think Ryan Ramchick was one. All these players had to restructure their contracts just for them to be able to spend money. And at that point, they understand, I'm being paid tens of millions of dollars to play football. Tyreek, I don't think understands that. And I think that's where we're leading to now with Kyler Murray, is now all these rumors are coming around that there are teams, and I think there's like 10 altogether, that have interest in Kyler Murray. And one of the teams I just mentioned was the New York Giants. Another one was Atlanta, but I don't know how I strongly feel about Atlanta being the best suitor for Kyler Murray. I mean, you have Philadelphia, you have New Orleans, like I just said. The Jets are being thrown in there. The Lions are being brought in there. And I think the Panthers were brought up as well. In fact, Cody Benjamin, who works over at CBSSports.com, he even said in his top 10 list of logical landing spots for Kyler Murray, if he were to be traded, was Carolina. And I don't agree with that one bit.
Yeah. And when it comes to trading, how big is the trade package going to be for, I think Kyler could be a franchise quarterback, but you're going to give up the whole farm for one player? I don't know. It's this whole money grab is a whole shit and caboodle with the expectations that what they think they should get. So, I mean, if the guy's not going to play with whatever they're going to put on the table, then I guess there's only one thing left to do.
Yeah. And that's to trade him. And notice too how a lot of these players are saying, "Oh, it's not about me; it's about the team. It's the way I'm being used for the system." And I'm like, I find that hard to believe that it was because of the fact that they're being misused. You know what I mean? Like Baker Mayfield, I can understand. Baker Mayfield was being completely disrespected now for at least a month by the Browns, all because they said, we're not gonna. We're going to pursue Deshaun Watson, but never told him. And then it really got really out of control by that point. So, I mean, getting a player like Baker, I think is understandable. But when it comes to like money, that I think is where it crosses the line. And I think too, this is where I was saying before, this is a good thing, is that it creates parity across the NFL. But sometimes you don't really know where that player is going to go. And it might just destroy your plans for the future or something like that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation about anything at this point.
Yeah, there is, and I haven't followed that whole Baker decision too much, but I do remember the last thing I heard him saying was, the team told me one thing and they did another. So I mean, that's gonna cause a lot of riff, well, at least with Cleveland. So now the big question is, where does Baker go? That I don't like teams that do that. If that's true. And that's another thing I that was brought up in, Brandon Beane's press conference. He's like, I'm going to be as honest as I can be. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I mean, there's just too much that comes after that. If you try to sway a player and, tell them one thing and do another type of deal. So Cleveland's being, I don't know if it's true, then Cleveland's being real defying, whoever the GM is over there.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think it's Andrew Berry. He was the director of player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles before he took the Browns job, but whatever. But I think though, like when you look at it, I feel like the Browns are the most dishonest team in the league. It's no wonder why they're such a shit show.
No, we'll see how far they go with Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, Baker is just, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen to Baker Mayfield because there was a report that came out today. I think it was from, I forgot who it was. It was from CBS or NFL Network. And one of the reporters said that if Baker were to be cut by the Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers would be the first ones in line to go out and pick him up within the next day.
Well, I would like to think any team that needs a quarterback would try to dip their hands into grabbing somebody.
Yep.
Either having Kyler, or Baker. I like Baker. I don't think he's going to become the next Johnny Manziel 2.0. I mean, if the Browns don't think he's gonna be able to get them over the hump, okay, that's fine. They obviously went another direction in getting Deshaun Watson. He's a different kind of quarterback. He's got a good arm. He does run. I mean, Baker doesn't run all that much, which is fine. But I mean, I think Baker is capable enough to get your team to the playoffs. I don't think he could ever get you over the hump. But I mean, you never know if a guy can catch fire, catch magic anywhere. So if Pittsburgh wants to stay relevant and not have to deal with drafting a quarterback this year, I mean, all power to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can continue on building your team around Baker. Then I mean, that's fine.
Yep. And then another report came out before the Pittsburgh thing was on Friday. Ian Rappaport said that the most likely landing spot for Baker Mayfield is the Carolina Panthers. And at this point, if Adam was on, he'd be like, I don't give a fuck. Just get it done already. Or he's like, I'm so disinterested at this point. I'm like, well, it's not as like draggable as it was with Deshaun Watson, which was going on for 2 years. This has only been going on for at least a month. So there's always going to be rumors about players. It happens in every professional sport. And I feel like that some people just have to just suck it up and just go over with it. You know what I mean? It always creates a story. And I think for Baker in this case, for him to possibly go to Carolina, I think would be a good spot for him. But at the same time, they're also, having visits with like Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, who, by the way, Josh Allen endorsed to be a really good quarterback in the league is Desmond Ridder. So I don't really know what's going to happen with Baker, but if he were to go to Carolina, then all power to him. I hope he does well. And Seattle is in the mix for him as well. So I really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's very unpredictable. I mean, to be fair, I think this whole offseason has been just beyond unpredictable. Nobody has a fucking clue where anybody goes anymore at this point. I mean, nobody thought Von Miller was going to go to the Bills. Nobody thought Tyreek was going to get traded. It's just been a giant cluster of moves, all big moves, that's completely changed the landscape of the entire National Football League in one fell swoop.
Well, going back to Baker, and I understand Adam's frustration. He just wants to get a better quarterback and get it done and be over with. I understand where he's coming from.
Me too. I agree with him.
You're not going to know until either veteran signs or, they go the way of the draft.
Yeah.
And, even listening to Von's presser today, he just mentions LA so much though. I'm like, he really misses that place.
What? Denver or?
No, LA, like being in LA. Like even today, he's like, I gave up LA to come to Buffalo. Like, I can't believe he's like still in shock that he made that decision. I'm like, dude, he's get dialed in here. Stop worrying about LA. I mean, I know it's crazy to think, the life and luxury over in LA and the weather and all that jazz, but you're here now. Focus on here, dude. I understand you miss it, but you gotta stop bringing it up. And I think it'll all start to fade away once he gets closer to, preseason.
Yeah, it'll take for time for him to adjust. And look who has joined the show. It's Mr. Sean O'Malley. What's up, brother?
Doing good, gentlemen. Doing good. Another long day of work, but I am here, ready to go. And all that fun jazz. And I see you're rocking the Kraken jersey. Very nice. Very nice.
Not just that, but it's freaking Philip Grubauer.
Nice.
I had to get grubby. I had to. I mean,
hey, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I might get his jersey too.
Oh, there you go. Or Brandon Tanev or Jordan Eberle or whoever the Kraken signed in the offseason. Or even Matty Beniers if he's available by that point.
I'd grab Beniers.
Yeah, for certain. So, Sean, we're just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. We're actually talking about the Kyler Murray rumors about him saying that I'm not going to play for the Cardinals unless I get a contract. And then there was rumors about multiple teams, including the Giants, on the list to be traded.
Oh, boy.
So do you want to give us a quick intake before we move on?
Yeah, real quick. Honestly, at this point, I say just trade him to the Giants since the Giants do need a quarterback. And, Kyler Murray said he doesn't want to play for the Cardinals until he gets a new contract. And honestly, I don't know why it's taking the Cardinals this long to get him the contract. Because, well, I don't know, man. Because, like, didn't he also delete his Cardinals information on his social media profile or something like that before?
Like half of the superstars in the NFL.
Jeez Louise. Like that tells me honestly, I don't think he even wants to play for the Cardinals, even if he does get a contract. So honestly, at this point, I think the Cardinals should just freaking give him what he wants, or just trade him to a team that needs him the most.
You want to pay him $40 million?
What is he going to do? Why is it taking the Cardinals this long to give him a new contract?
Because he's not worth $40 million.
Then I say just trade him.
Well, okay, then trade him. That's the way to do it. So while we're on the topic of the NFL with trade rumors, the next big name in line, and Andy, I can already tell you, are not looking forward to this. I can tell by the tone of that crowd. Is for those who don't know, Andy is a big-time San Francisco 49ers fan, and we're going to talk about Deebo Samuel today.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of shit coming out within the last 8 hours about Deebo Samuel, and it's gotten a lot more interesting since that certain aspect. So for those who don't know, Deebo Samuel requested a trade by the San Francisco 49ers only just for the fact that he claims that he wants to be traded so that he's not being used as a quote-unquote wide receiver running back hybrid, and the 49ers have the money to pay him, but he's not going to engage in anything. So he's basically pulling on Tyreek Hill right now with all this. And there were 6 teams, I believe, actually 5 as of now, that were linked to this. And that were the Lions, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Jets, the Texans, and the Falcons. The Chiefs said they're not getting Tyreek, and the Jets said that it would be a ransom for any of those teams to get Tyreek. And of all the teams that are possibly in the running for Deebo, a lot of the people believe that the New York Jets are going to be the front runners.
I don't even want to talk about it. It's so depressing.
I know. We can get through it.
Like what we were talking about earlier. Like he's another wide receiver who, he had a great year, a great breakout year, and he wants to be in that top tier range when it comes to money. And it's like, dude, you had one good year. I mean, calm down. I've seen rumors that Trey Lance is getting the green light that he's going to be the quarterback this year, despite that Jimmy G's still going to be there. So I don't know. I don't know what the riff is. I don't know what the riff is between him and management. I'm shocked as hell that he's doing what he's doing. I don't know what's going on, but they lose Deebo. They're going to be asking for the ultimate package, which I don't blame them. Deebo does kind of do it all.
Yeah, but
and if that's fine. You know what? Was the Eagles part of the teams that were interested, by the way?
I think they were mentioned briefly, but I don't think they have that much interest. But then again, all the teams that I mentioned earlier, outside of like Atlanta, all those teams have multiple first-round picks. So if anything, San Francisco will demand a first-round pick from one of those 5 teams that have interest in him. I mean, Kansas City wants nothing to do with Deebo, because the question, and I think it's because if you look at what's going on with the Chiefs, they would probably look at it and be like, well, we could be the biggest embarrassment in the league by basically saying, we're not willing to pay Tyreek, but we can pay for Deebo. So I think that's why the Chiefs kind of backed out on it. So they said they're out. I don't really know anybody else outside of the 5 that I just mentioned that would be in it. I wouldn't be shocked if Philadelphia was in there either, just to kind of be honest with you.
I just don't want to see him in a Jets jersey or a Chiefs jersey. To be honest with you, trade him to Atlanta. I really don't care. I really don't care.
Yeah,
they got to find a replacement for Calvin Ridley. Fine, go send him to Atlanta. I'll be happy for that, and grab some draft capital, because they don't have a first round pick this year. So go get it if that's the way you want to go. Just not in a Jets jersey, please.
Yeah, listen, man, I feel you. Now you know what it feels like to be Adam, where you traded for Sam Darnold a year ago. This year, we're looking at you, buddy. You're in the spotlight this year, and you
This is going to be really tough seeing him go. He's the only bright spot on offense aside from
George Kittle.
who else was it? Besides Kittle. I have high hopes. That Trey Lance will come in there and change things around. If not, maybe in a year or two. I like his upside, but to see one of your elite players just blow it up this year and then out of nowhere getting a riff and then demand a trade, it's mind-boggling, and I don't want to see him go, but they got to do what they got to do.
I don't blame you, to be honest with you. I mean, it's more like, to me, because Adam Schefter reported this yesterday, and he said that the 49ers are ready to pay him what he wants, but it's Deebo that's the one that's holding this all up. And it's become a game of he said, she said. And I'm not a fan of that. But at the same time, like I said earlier on the show, and just in case Sean missed the comment, I said that players, for those who get greedy, like Tyreek Hill, for example, who decided to commit one of the 7 deadly sins, which was greed, and he took the money over the team. And he's going from a huge downgrade from Kansas City, a Super Bowl contender, to go to the Dolphins just for the money. And the same could happen with Deebo Samuel, a team that had a miraculous playoff run, losing to the Rams in the conference championship, which kudos to the 49ers, and then going to the Super Bowl 3 years ago. So I think for that aspect, or 2 years ago, whatever it was. I just think just for the factor that Deebo's name has been kicked around, and I understand Andy's frustration with the Niners not able to, please Deebo, because I think he's an amazing piece to have on your team. But there's been a lot of shit that came out that basically said he does not want to be a hybrid of a wide receiver and a running back. And I think he's just saying that as an excuse to get out of San Francisco.
Whatever the case may be, I don't know. At this point, dude, you want out, hopefully they can oblige you and bring you somewhere else. If there's no persuading you to stay, then it is what it is. I'll be frustrated, but I'll see. You got to see it from both sides of the player and the team. So
yeah, I agree. But
it is what it is. Let them get a first-round draft pick. Let them draft a wide receiver. There's plenty in the first round to grab from.
Absolutely, and there's no pressure on that whatsoever. If they trade Deebo, it saves them a headache, and they get a young, fresh, talented wide receiver. And wide receivers are getting more and more greedy by the year. So I think certain teams have to be prepared for that, because the cap goes up every year, and receivers are asking for more and more money. And Tyreek Hill kind of started this shamble to begin with. And I think Deebo is just following with his footsteps. And I think that's not a good key for success whatsoever, but it is what it is. But I think if there's one team out there, and it was not listed, and this is just my own pure speculation, don't be surprised if the New Orleans Saints start knocking on the door about Deebo Samuel. I wouldn't be surprised, because think about it. They traded with Philadelphia. They gave up next year's first-round pick to Philly just to move up a few spots, and they could give up the 15th pick to San Francisco in a deal for Deebo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Any team that has multiple first rounds that needs, wide receiver would be in on it. And that's why I asked if the Eagles were one of those teams, because I could see that happening. I could see that. I mean, you don't want to trade him within the NFC. I understand that, but I mean, whether you want to see him once or twice a year, that's up to you, depending on where you want to go. So, I mean, get that first and move on. Get a receiver replacement. There's a nice long list of good talent this year in the draft. At least a good 10 receivers, I would say, from what I looked at.
Fair enough.
So, and just be done with it and move on.
I agree. But you know what? You never know. Deebo might get over, whatever he's asking for, 25 to 30 million, which is a massive overpay for a wide receiver. And he might stay in San Francisco. But I feel like the relationship has been completely broken. So we'll see where it goes from here. But you said Philadelphia. I said New Orleans. What about Sean? I know you might have an opinion about this.
Yeah, I say trade him to Atlanta. I mean, Falcons need to replace Calvin Ridley, and with the whole relationship between Samuel and Niners is just pretty much dead in the water. Might as well just trade him, get it over with. Send him to the Falcons.
We'll find out. It comes closer to the draft, which is surprisingly next week. I mean, could you imagine that? And this is the time of year where the free agency frenzy slows down for at least a month, and then towards closer to the draft, which is where we're at now, that's where all the speculation of trade rumors come in and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting time of the year, and I'm really interested where everything goes from here on out. I mean, can you really blame anybody else who would be interested in this stuff? Myself included.
I think.
Yeah, it's weird. And one other piece of news that came out as well is Josh Allen will be teaming up with Patrick Mahomes against Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady for a charity golf match on June 1st at 6:30 p.m. And I believe it takes place in Las Vegas. So I think that's going to be very interesting to watch. I mean, I personally do not give a shit about golf, but if it's for charity, good on all those guys. And if those who are interested, it's going to be on TNT at that point. So it'll be on right around the time of the Stanley Cup Finals or the conference finals, whatever you want to call it in hockey, as far as the third or fourth round by that point. But we'll find out if it means anything. I personally don't give a shit about golf. I never did. I know my in-laws all care, but like for me, I just never got into golf.
Well, as someone who once got into golf, like back when I was still in my early teens, I'm actually looking forward to this. Allen teaming up with his new rival Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff. It's pretty much old school versus new school with Brady and Rodgers teaming up. And hey, for charity, you got Josh Allen in it. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Andy. What do you think, boss?
Well, just like the rest of you, I'm not into golf. I never watched the game, but it's Josh Allen. See how good he does. I'm not sure I like to team up with Mahomes. I'd rather see him versus Holmes. But I get like Sean said, it's old school versus new school, and it should be fun to watch and see how good these players' golf game really is.
I mean, it's fucking golf. I mean, it's not like they're doing a throwdown on footballs or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure they would during pre or post game during golf, but I just find it very interesting that Josh Allen got chosen to go into this event. I mean, I think it's because if you look back, obviously, since that playoff game in January in the divisional round, a lot of people, even casual fans, are like, holy shit, these two guys are amazing. And they were up to the point now where I think Brady and Rodgers, or it might have been the NFL, I don't know who organized it. I think it was Brady. And he basically just tagged 3 random quarterbacks and said, you, and you. I want you guys to play in golf because they all brag about how good they are in golf. Josh Allen said that he got really good at golf. So I want to see how good he really is. I mean, personally, I wouldn't know numbers or anything like that, but I will watch that match just for Josh Allen and just to see how competitive it will get, because I think it will be competitive.
Oh yeah, they're all competitors. Of course, it's going to be competitive. As much as they'll try and kind of play it off a little bit, they're going to be competitive. It's another sport they're playing, and they're going to be playing on live TV, so they're going to bring their A games, however good they may be, and then we can all see for ourselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's interesting to watch, and it will be interesting to watch, but 9 times out of 10, I don't give a fuck about golf. I know people talk about the Masters and all that, but I really don't give a shit. Everyone talks about Tiger Woods. I really don't give a shit. I mean, I just care about, Josh Allen being able to play a sport that he openly admires. And I'm happy for him that he's able to go out and play professional golf for a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a leisure sport that all sports players play, or at least most of them. Hockey players, they all like playing golf in the off season. I know there's a sandbagger video coming out. I don't know, I think it was today, with Biz and Whitney that they usually do it versus other players. So I know they had another one coming out today, which they're actually fun to watch. I mean, I don't give a fuck about the score sheet and birdies and drops and all this other shit, but it's fun to watch them compete and talk smack throughout the whole thing. I mean, it's great. I mean, I can watch that.
Absolutely. I mean, when a quarterback like Josh Allen is this good and he's going to be playing golf, that the NFL is setting him up to win a Super Bowl.
Well, we'll see about that, but I got to say, like when I was just mentioned the sandbagger, the really good one that Biz and Whitney had that I enjoyed watching was versus when they played against Caulfield and Zegras. I mean, the chirps going on hole to hole was absolutely hilarious. I mean, you could tell they're all competitive. It's great to see that, in a different sport, they can relax, but at the same time be competitive and chirp each other, for bragging rights. So I mean, if it's stuff like that, I'm all for it. I don't give a fuck how far you can whack the ball and putt and all that jazz. As much as playing football and hockey, but
Yeah.
that kind of stuff I can watch. Like regular golf, you'll just put me to sleep.
Yeah, mostly. So, what was I gonna mention? Fuck. And there's a bunch of XFL news, but no, like Andy doesn't care. Sean, I don't think cares about the XFL, so I'm not gonna even bother. We'll move over to that.
I don't really care until it actually comes back, like pretty much. But honestly, right now, it's just, to be honest, it's just pointless at this right now.
Yeah. The only thing I know for a fact is the XFL has a plan to rival the USFL. That's the only, and they're looking to pay more players because I think they're willing to pay the players over $1 million per week than what the USFL pays certain players now, which I think is like $415,000. Yeah, there's a bunch of in and outs, business details, and I'm not going to get into that because again, nobody gives a shit outside me. But that's just me personally. I'm just being straightforward. So let's move over to hockey because there's actually a lot of news that came out this week. And I know Sean made a video about this yesterday. And I'm, of course, wearing the jersey to honor this. And that is Macklemore and Marshawn Lynch are now both minority owners of the Seattle Kraken.
Oh my gosh! I mean, what else can you say about this, man? Like, this is freaking awesome. And freaking Marshawn Lynch doing a donuts on a Zamboni. Good gosh.
Dude, that's fucking
He is into it.
Oh, believe me.
He is enjoying his life. He is enjoying that retirement life.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
crap. Good gosh.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
I mean, Vegas and Seattle are now even when it comes to star celebrities having a minority ownership. As I think Rob Gronkowski owns like a minority part of the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah, in case you didn't know. And now Macklemore and Marshawn Lynch are now heavily involved with the Seattle Kraken, which I think is great. Macklemore, I will be honest, and Andy, you can have an opinion about this in a sec, as I'm going to ask you first, is Macklemore, I definitely think will have a bigger impact with the Kraken than Marshawn Lynch, in my opinion, as I think he'll bring in a lot of people who are probably big-time fans of his music, and he's going to use it as leverage to recruit players in either by trade or within free agency come July or whenever it is. Because I think May 10th, I heard a rumor that Macklemore is expected to be a representative at the NHL draft lottery on May 10th. That's what I heard. So I don't know how accurate it is, but it's worth looking at. So, yeah. So, Andy, tell me about what you think about the whole minority ownership thing with the Kraken with Macklemore and Beast Mode.
I mean, it's great. It's great to see. You got other, actresses and stuff. You had Jennifer Lopez in with the Dolphins. I mean, it's nice to see, other people get into, other things, but as minority ownership, like, I don't know how much they get involved with things that go on, things that go on with the team per se. I don't know how much say they have and stuff. But I mean, it's cool to see other people get into it and put money into the sport. That's all I can really. I don't know how far they get into it with being, minority owners and how much say they get. So I think it's pretty cool. It's nice to see. They can bring some juice to the fans. Being around. Being around the fans pre-game, post-game, whatever have you, during the game.
Yeah. Right. And the funny thing too is there was a video, and I don't know if Sean saw this or not. I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. There were two videos. One was Marshawn Lynch was sitting with the fans, like right at center ice within like the first row behind the bench, and he was just enjoying himself. I mean, outside of the whole fucking Zamboni thing, that was just hysterical. And, he's just interacting with the fans. And Macklemore, with his daughter, went into the Kraken's locker room, and he actually started to announce the starting lineup from yesterday's game or the day before's game against the Ottawa Senators. And Seattle dominated that game because they were thinking, okay, we have to put on our game face for our new overlords. So let's go out and play our best game. And sure enough, the Kraken came out and they played like hell, and they were amazing from top to bottom, from beginning to end, beating the shit out of the lowly Ottawa Senators. I think it was 4-2 or 5-2, somewhere in that range. And I was watching the third period, and I'm thinking, okay, they're definitely inspired by the whole Macklemore and beast mode thing. So I think it's great for the Seattle Kraken. I think it's great for the community. I think it's going to bring a lot of investments, and I think it's going to bring a lot of fans into the game, especially casuals or newcomers who don't know things about it. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, look at a couple games ago with the Sabres. Josh Allen was there, and he got an amazing applause. They were playing the shout song at the game. And then, after the game, after the win, he's in the locker room, getting handshakes and fist pumps. And, it's just cool to see. I mean, it's great to see.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to call this right now. Depending how long he's in Buffalo, I have a feeling that Josh Allen will be the minority owner of the Buffalo Sabres.
That'd be cool.
Oh, that'd be freaking awesome.
I think he will do it. I think he's become a Sabres fan at this point. Like when he first came to Buffalo, he didn't know what to expect. And then he's been now here for almost 5 years. It's just like, he's having a blast in the city. And he's even said, I'd rather be here than any other city. It's not like in New York or LA where you could do whatever, you want overnight. And it's a very quiet town in Buffalo, and everyone's playing cards or playing video games together. I think that's cool. And having to go to Sabres games with his girlfriend, and I think that's pretty damn cool when you look at it from that perspective. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We'll see what happens in the future. I don't know how. I mean, he obviously has taken a liking to the Sabres, but you got to think too. I mean, Jim Kelly was also at the game. Nobody else has really become a minority owner. With Terry and Kim. You don't see any foreign bills doing that. You don't see Jim Kelly doing that. So, would he want to maybe cool down the line, or who knows?
I don't really know. I mean, there's a possibility. I think because at this point, Josh Allen is now at the celebrity status because he's going to be in a lot of fucking commercials, and he's got an endorsement sponsor with Pepsi Nitro. He was on friggin' TMZ. I don't know if anybody saw that. There was an article, and I read this on what's today, Wednesday. I saw this on Monday, and I was telling my buddies at work, and they're all Jets fans, and I showed them the article about Josh Allen, and the headline said Josh Allen was spotted at an LA restaurant. And there was a bunch of paparazzis over there with him and his girlfriend, and they were going to a really, nice Italian restaurant in Los Angeles. And the TMZ paparazzi was right there going, clicking with their cameras, just going clink, 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 just taking pictures of him as he's walking into the restaurant. It's like you can't be a superstar anywhere at this point, especially in a city like Los Angeles, and you can no longer have any sort of privacy.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't get too much for him to handle, because when it comes to paparazzi and celebrities, for most of the time those things don't mix well.
No, they don't. It also depends on the person, but from what it is, he doesn't seem like he's complaining about it. He's just kind of just keeping it to himself, and he's like, you know what, I'm a superstar now, but I'm just gonna be humble, keep my head down, work hard. And that's the approach I get from Josh. That's the vibe I get from Josh Allen. It's not like, Tyreek Hill or any other superstar in the NFL where they're like, I'm this, I'm that. And people are just like, dude, shut the fuck up and just do your job. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, you get endorsement deals, business deals and stuff like that, which is great because I think that it's going to only lead to commercials and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that Allen was in an Amazon commercial for the Stat That commercial earlier this year where he was like, stat that. He was in there for like at least 5 seconds. And I saw that. I'm like, that's great.
Yep. He was also in a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial too.
Was he really?
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. Was it a local commercial or was it like?
No, it was a nationwide.
Huh.
Let me check it real quick.
Yeah, but I wouldn't play it just for copyright reasons. But I'll
Right,
check.
but I'll play it after the show.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm just trying to protect the show from any like violent crimes or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know how society is these days.
Yeah. So speaking of ownerships of celebrities, because we talked about Macklemore and Marshawn Lynch, another celebrity is in talks of buying a hockey team, and that is Justin Bieber has heavy interest in buying the Ottawa Senators as being the full-time
God.
owner of the team, and the selling will be up to the daughters of the late Eugene Melnick.
He's going to get booed out of the building like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah,
Good God.
I don't like this idea at all. I mean, God forbid Justin Bieber could turn into John Bon Jovi. He says, "Oh, I grew up a Sens fan, which is he's a Leafs fan. It's pretty obvious." And buy the team, and then he could relocate them to like Quebec City or something like that. I'm not in favor of that whatsoever.
Whatever, man. Somebody's got to own the team. As long as it ain't my team, whatever. It's
Now, how would you? Now, how would you feel if someone, let's say, not to get political, but if you remember back in 2014, remember when Donald Trump made an attempt to buy the Bills before he ran for president?
I remember that.
Mhm. And I remember after he lost the bid out to Bon Jovi and Terry Pagula, he just went on a rant, said, "The Bills will never win a Super Bowl unless I was in my leadership." Like, shut up, you fucking asshole.
Right.
I mean, personally, I like Donald Trump, but I'm not going to get into all that because that's not my place to go political, but it's a sports show. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I will say this, though. I don't know how I would felt if he were the owner of the team. He probably would have just gave it to Don Jr. and then he would have just probably ran for president. I'm not really sure, but who knows? But I feel like though Justin Bieber in this scenario, I don't think he would put in the full-time endorsement for the Senators. He'll probably pop up like 10 games a year or when they're in the playoffs and he'll go out on his world tour with like doing concerts and shit. But at this point, I feel like Justin Bieber is just like now in the blend of just an average Joe like celebrity now. It's not like when he was a kid or when he was just a teenager and and the whole world went ape shit on him. I'm just telling the truth. I that's what I think. But Andy, what do you think about Justin Bieber potentially buying the Ottawa Senators?
Is he the only one that's got interest?
As far as I know, yes. He's the only one I've heard that has interested in buying the team.
As long as you got good intentions and know how to fucking find the right people to run the show,
Yeah.
all pleasure to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And speaking of arenas and ownership and all that, there was another game. This is going to sound really interesting. I don't know if you heard this or not. So according to Stephen Wino, who I have no idea who this is, he posted on Twitter, and I quote, that the St. Louis Blues and the Arizona Coyotes will be playing a preseason game in Wichita, Kansas on September 24th.
Okay.
But why Kansas of all places? I mean, are they entertaining the idea of a team going to Kansas?
Oh, possibility.
I think that would just break the barrier. I feel like that even though they're at 32, which I think is enough for teams, I also think it creates more opportunities and creates more fans because Kansas is just a plain state that has nothing going for them outside of like maybe the Chiefs, but that's in Missouri. But the point being is that if you put a preseason game in a city that doesn't have any records of owning a professional sports franchise other than college sports, I think that's a good endorsement for a middle of the road like state like Kansas. I think it would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it would be pretty interesting. But whatever we can expand the game for, I guess, is a good thing.
Yeah, certainly. I just find that very interesting. And then, of course, before I forget to mention, I wanted to say really quick that may he rest in peace to Mike Bossy, who died on Friday due to a long battle of terminal lung cancer, and he was 65 years old. He's now the second Islanders legend to pass away this year.
Dang.
Yeah. The first one was Clark Gillies in January, and then Mike Bossy in April. And John Potvin died in March. But yeah, it's really unfortunate. You know, he's one of the best Islanders players of all time, if not the GOAT for the New York Islanders. He was a scoring machine back in the 80s with the Islanders winning those 4 Stanley Cups. My dad used to tell me a lot of stories about Mike Bossy, and he went to many of his games, like the Islanders winning the cup clinching goal game against the Flyers in 1980, and then 50 goals in 50 games for Mike Bossy and all that bullshit. So, so from that standpoint, his legacy has to be remembered by not just any Islander fan, but just for the fact of just an NHL fan in general. I think anybody who just takes the time to appreciate, the playmaking status quo of Mike Bossy, I think it really tells a story about his legacy if you look back on it. Because I know for a fact that Mike Bossy was a big time smoker when he was in his mid-20s, when he was a rock star for the Islanders.
Well, he left a good legacy behind, and he's a legend in the game. And rest in peace to Mike Bossy. I'm sure sometime next year there's going to be a big tribute to him.
Yeah, they did a little monologue against Florida, or it might have been against Ottawa. I think it was against Florida. And they did a little moment of silence for him before the game against, I think, Florida or Ottawa. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I wanted to, but I couldn't because I had things to do. But I know they did a tribute for him before the game on that day when they found out that he passed away. I know for a fact that UBS Arena, they have a wall of fame there. If you ever go there, there's a wall of fame when you go up the stairway right from the escalator up to where the stadium takes you. And there's a wall of fame for all the Islanders legends in there. And Clark Gillies and Mike Bossy are all there. And there's a little funeral going on. There's a barricade line there where it says for people to respectfully not, go over and take pictures for the time being. And they put flowers all around his plaque. And I think that was pretty damn cool to see that they honored Mike Bossy that way. But then again, he's one of the greatest players to ever play for this team and probably one of the greatest in NHL history. So may he rest in peace to Mike Bossy. I wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. And on top of all that, the Washington Capitals are reportedly bringing back the Screaming Eagle jersey for the 22-23 campaign. And this time it could be for the reverse retro series again.
I like them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you saw that jersey, Sean, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
The Washington Capitals Screaming Eagle jersey.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually just bought that jersey on eBay a month ago. But obviously it's not reverse retro, but you'll see what I mean. Yeah, it's white. It has the bald eagle on it. I love that jersey. It's probably one of my favorites in the league. I always respected that logo. I wish the Caps just, kept it. But there were some people that are like, yeah, I don't like that. I'm like, no, stop. That's classic. I'm sorry. All right. And then we have 2 more topics to kick off for the evening. And that is one is coming from the Detroit Red Wings and one is coming from the Philadelphia Flyers. So I'm going to read that and then we will wrap up tonight's show. Supposedly there are 2 longtime Flyers trainers who are planning to sue the team's ownership, among others, after receiving similar medical diagnoses that are allegedly saying that it came from a work environment in which they were unknowingly exposed to a cancer-causing carcinogens. And one of the trainers, his name is Jim McCrossan. He's 64 years old. He was the director of medical service for the Flyers, who joined the team 22 years ago in the year 2000. And the assistant athletic trainer, Sal Rafa, who's 42 years old, joined the Flyers in 2004, who were both diagnosed with nearly identical and incurable blood diseases and or cancer a few months apart in the spring of 2021. And McCrossan developed the rare medical condition, essentially thrombocythemia. I cannot pronounce this. But anyway, he's got blood cancer, and which is terminal, by the way. And Rafa developed the same thing, which is also incurable, and is proliferately with other blood diseases as well, such as cancer and inducing strokes. And then after an exhaustive amount of researches, the pair have allegedly sent out the contraction of these diseases was the result of excessive exposure to cancer-causing cardigans and that are emitted from the Zambonis, and which was used to cut and clean the ice surface at the Flyers practice facility, and a result of the training room where they have worked for the past 2 decades, and butting up against the Zamboni room where these chemicals were potentially ingested extensively due to the inappropriate ventilation or through a shared drainage system. So there's a lot to process. So basically 2 ex-trainers who worked for the Flyers for 20 plus years are suing the team because they both believe that they got cancer from just being exposed to certain chemicals from when they were working at the Zambonis.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So give me your thoughts on this, Andy, if you can.
What was the question?
What do you think about what's going on here? So 2 ex-Flyers trainers from the medical staff are going to sue the team, and because they were both, exposed to chemicals from within the Zambonis, and both got blood cancer, which are both terminal, by the way.
Oh, wow. If that's really the case, and that's the strong evidence that support it, then by all means sue and get that money for your family. I don't know what else to say on that one.
I mean, it's pretty insubordinate for the Flyers to keep this a secret. And for the fact that they didn't say anything until like 20 years later, I think it's just astronomical. But then again, they didn't develop this until like 2021. So they had a whole year to come up with a lawsuit to sue the Flyers just for that. So I don't know. I just think it's a very bizarre story. I mean, it's sad that they have to sue their own team just for the fact they got cancer from being exposed to chemicals, but it's an appropriate action in my opinion. So what do you think, Sean?
I mean, it's unfortunate about their situation, and dang, I think there's going to be some kind of investigation going on, because to see what like to get to the bottom of this, because this is a serious matter. Like,
Yeah,
basically those 2 lives are ruined if you think about it.
yeah, but I mean, fortunately, they're living right now, but unfortunately, it's terminal. So I hope that they both are able to get justice, because this is pretty fucked up on their aspect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yep.
this whole thing's messed up.
Yeah. And the last story that came out today, by the way, and it's pretty fucking hilarious, is longtime Red Wings Zamboni driver Al Sabaka was fired due to, quote, peeing in a drain. Yeah, seriously. So to give you an idea who Al Sabaka is, he was the guy, if you ever look at older 90s clips for the Red Wings during the playoffs, he's the Zamboni driver. After the Red Wings would score a goal, he would toss around an octopus like this onto the ice. And the octopus, to give you an idea, Sean, is to represent the 8 Stanley Cups that they won before 1997, which was a 42-year playoff drought. So, and even if after they won Cups 10 and 11, they still traditionally hold on to the octopus this day. So anyway, so Al Sabotka is suing on the basis of discrimination due to his age and disability. And according to the lawsuit, Sabotka has been diagnosed with Benign prostatic hypertrophy, which causes a frequent and uncontrollable need to urinate. And on February 2nd of 2022, Sabotka drove one of the Zamboni machines into its garage at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan, after cleaning the ice at the main ring. Sabotka, according to the lawsuit, experienced an uncontrollable urge to urinate, and the nearest facility, was 60-70 feet away. So instead of Sabotka used one of the drains that lead into the sewer, and it was designed to handle the ice runoff from the Zamboni machines. And the area is closed to the public and has access limited to all male ice crew. And Sabotka was pissing between the 2 Zambonis when he was seen by a male employee. And then 2 days later, Sabotka was called into a meeting with his supervisor and a human resource representative, initially suspending him for a week, and then it was officially terminated on February 17th of this past year.
Wow.
Yeah, so I find that, I mean, it sucks that he lost his job, and it's, I understand that it's a disability and you can't help that, but isn't there not like a porta potty that's like within maybe 10 feet from the Zambonis? Not to sound ignorant or anything.
I don't know.
I mean, it's such a bizarre story. So I've never heard anybody say, I got fired for taking a piss. It's the equivalent of the Pittsburgh Maulers in the USFL cutting one of their players because he would not eat a chicken salad that the team made, which is fucking bizarre.
Yeah, it's all fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what do you think, Andy, about that with the whole Al Sabotka story?
It's out there. Let me tell you, I don't have any words for that one.
I got fired for taking a piss. I mean, it's awful. I mean, to have a condition, but you can't pee in the drain in a public servant area. I'm sorry, you just can't do that.
Yeah, you just can't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just can't.
I have no idea how old this guy is. I mean, I know he's been around for a long, long time, maybe 30 years or 40 years or so. But how could you not take a piss in a porta potty and you have to just pee and run to the fucking drain where, important chemicals are out there and stuff like that? Imagine having to drive around a Zamboni all around Little Caesars Arena, just like this, having to be covered in piss. And then when they come back on the ice, it's like, something smells funky.
Yeah. I mean, literally.
I mean, that's probably why the Red Wings lost the majority of their game.
Wow.
Oh, shit, I'm going to hell. Oh, God. I am going to hell. But, yeah, Sean, what do you think about that?
Like Andy, I have no words. I mean, what can you say about this?
Jesus Christ. If I were a Red Wings fan, I'd be embarrassed.
Yeah.
I would be embarrassed. You're getting fired for taking a piss. I mean, there's been so many stupid reasons behind everything nowadays. But I mean, getting cut by a football team for not eating chicken salad and then getting fired for having a disability, which uncontrollably makes you take a piss. God. Fucking hell, dude. But is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up this week's show?
Well, looking forward to the last 4 games of the season for the Sabres. I'll be going to the last game next week for Chicago. And, look, just like the Sabres team, they don't want it to end. I don't want it to end, but at least they're going to be ending the season on a positive note, and looking forward to the off season for them, and obviously next year, and hopefully the Amerks in these coming weeks, get a playoff spot, and hopefully have some success down there, and hopefully I can maybe I'll take a ride down there and get a game in.
Maybe. What about you, Sean?
NFL draft next week. Looking forward to it. Let's see who the Bills get in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be open season for that pick at 25, but we'll find out next week who they take. It could be corner, it could be running back, who knows? And by the way, Sean, before we wrap up tonight's show, congratulations on the Kraken with Macklemore and Marshawn Lynch being the minority owners. Congratulations.
Thank you. Kraken going beast mode. I'm loving every bit of it. Looking forward to the future.
Fuck yeah, dude. So, and for me, I'm just enjoying life and I'm getting ready for the draft. And next week will be here, at least, in my last big event before my wedding in July. So I can't wait to share my journey with you guys on that. And I am looking forward to it. I couldn't be any more excited than I am now about the draft. And then, of course, my wedding coming up. So there's going to be a lot of fun shit coming up in my life. So I just wanted to kind of just get that out there real quick. So, yeah. So with that being said, I am your host, Bob Hansen, filling in for Tom Wujak. That's Sean O'Malley, and that is Andy Van Meer. And we all just want to say good night, and we will see you guys next week during the live show on Thursday, April 28th. There is no Wednesday show next week. Just giving you a heads up on that. With that, if there's any news will come out, we might break it up or two, so we'll find out from there. All right, guys, have a good night, and we will see you then. Have a good night, everybody.
Later.
Buffalo After Dark is an H&H Studio production and is produced in partnership with Horns & Hooves Entertainment.